Hello, Yates County and beyond. Welcome back to another episode of Invasive Species Friday. Through this short weekly podcast, we at the Yates CCE hope to bring you information about the invasive species you may see around this county. Let's dive right into this week's aquatic suspect, the curly-leaf pondweed. Curly-leaf pondweed is a submerged perennial, meaning it grows under the water. Originally from Europe, Africa, and Australia, it was first found in Philadelphia around 1841 and quickly began to spread. By 1860, it was abundant in Delaware and Pennsylvania, and by the early 1880s, had invaded Massachusetts and New York. There were reports of curly-leaf pondweed in California as early as 1896. The species is now established in every continental state. It's believed that the plant was accidentally introduced into the U.S. during fish stocking programs, where carp, a common cultivated food source in Europe and Asia at the time, were released into the waterways. The fish thrived in most of their new and variable habitats, and today are considered an invasive species. Curly pondweed may have also been used as an aquarium plant. Improper disposal of aquarium plants is a common vector of aquatic invasive species, and you'll be hearing more about that introduction method in future episodes. Back to this week's species. Curly-leaf pondweed tolerates low light and low temperatures and invades in both shallow and deep water. The leaves are reddish-green and oblong with finely serrated, wavy edges that kind of resemble lasagna. The stems are slightly flattened, white, green, or reddish-brown, and can grow up to 16 feet long. Unfortunately, curly pondweed looks a lot like the native pondweed species, so identifying it is tricky. The easiest way to distinguish it visually is by the serrated edges of the mature leaves. The life cycle of the curly pondweed is what really separates it from the natives, though, and also what gives it a disastrous competitive edge. It mainly reproduces through densely packed leaf buds called turions. These typically sprout under the ice in the fall or early winter, making it one of the very first species to emerge in the early spring. This gives it a head start for light and space, and allows it to shade out and outcompete the native species. Starting early also means it dies early. Great, right? Nope. When the plant dies back or goes dormant in midsummer, the area experiences a critical drop in dissolved oxygen. This, coupled with increased levels of phosphorus it gives off while decaying, leads to algae growing out of control. Curly-leaf pondweed can also create dense mats near the water's surface that reduces light penetration and inhibits boating, fishing, swimming, and other fun activities. Boats are actually the most common cause of the spread of this species. Plant fragments and turions can get stuck on trailers, motors, docks, watercrafts, and other recreational equipment. If the debris isn't cleaned off before it's moved, the plant can be transported to new areas and the infestation spreads. So what can you do to help control this invasive plant? As with any of the species discussed on this podcast, prevention is key. Clean plants, animals, and mud off of your boating and fishing gear before you leave the access areas. Drain the bilge, motor, and other water-containing devices as well. Allow everything to dry for at least 5 days, or wipe everything down with a towel before using it again. Keep an eye out when you're on or near the water for curly-leaf pondweed and other aquatic invasives, and report what you find to IMAP Invasives. For more tips on preventing aquatic spread, check out stopaquatichitchhikers.org. This campaign was launched by the Aquatic Nuisance Species Task Force of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to spread awareness and empower people to become part of the prevention solution. With that, we at the Yates County CCE thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Invasive Species Friday. Join us next Friday to learn about a plant that sounds like it could be found in your kitchen. We hope you have enjoyed this production and will continue to support our fight against invasive species in Yates County.